Okay, so I think we'll get started in about a minute. We're just waiting for a few more attendees to join onto the webinar. So just please hold on there and then we'll get started in about 1 minute. Okay, so I think we'll get started and welcome everyone to our webinar for Tuesday here. Appreciate that some of you, it may be your lunchtime at the moment, but however, good morning and good afternoon from wherever you are on there. So the webinar for today, we're going to be talking about mastering data security and the essential 8 strategies with Veeam and Sophos. My name is Wesley and I'm a cyber solution architect at Ingram Micro. And my co-host here is Llanto, who will be joining us as a solution architect for Veeam as well on here. If we can go to the next slide, Sean. So just as a quick agenda for today, so it'll be around about 45 minutes at this time. We'll be have a quick overview of the Australian Essential 8. And next I'll be talking about Sophos and then Sophos Intercept X. Sean, my colleague, will then run through the Veeam side of things on the Veeam data platform and Veeam's role in Essential 8. And then we'll talk about the Veeam and Sophos integration. And then lastly, we'll go through a secure restore demo across on here. And as we go through, now, if you have any questions, please add your questions to the Q&A chat box, and then we'll try and answer them at the end of the presentation. Okay, so the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, or the ASC and the ASD, Australian Signals Directorate, have released what's called the Essential 8 for mitigating cybersecurity incidents, and it's a prioritised list of practical actions that organisations can take to improve their security efficacy in their organisations. The advantage of the guidance is that it is customizable to each organisation based on their risk and profile and the threats that they are most concerned about. Basically, the ASD Essential 8 is looking at ensuring that, basically your critical information systems are secure while safeguarding organisations' reputation and essential resources across on here. The model itself does ensure, mitigation strategies, that to evolve and adapt with the tactics, techniques, and procedures that certain employed cyber adversaries are utilising these days there. Do bear in mind with this Essential 8, no single mitigation strategy is guaranteed to prevent a cybersecurity incident from happening, but it is there to serve as a baseline for cyber posture, as your cyber posture to prevent any sort of cyber incidents events happening in your organisation out there. Partners and customers can look at the Essential 8. Basically a few things that you can look at too is managing the risks that are contextually relevant to an organisation. It helps provide you the steps that are relevant in addressing the threats that you see, and also helping support organisation with a baseline to achieve in the Essential 8 model across on there. Now, there are with the maturity levels, there are basically 4 maturity levels that the Essential 8 talks about. Basically, if we look at the unofficial one, which is level 0, basically you don't have any sort of mitigation strategy in place with level 0. So it's always a good starting point to look at. And then we go from level 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the most detailed with a lot of mitigation, and then you're fully complied with Essential 8 across on here. Just as a guide with Essential 8 as well, so even though there are 4 levels across on here, the level 3 maturity, you have to look at that from a perspective of, is that relevant for my organisation? It's nice to achieve across on here, but from practically adopting maturity level 3 in certain organisations, they won't be able to achieve that across on here. So across, depending on what your vertical or where you are, sometimes for the organisation, even a level 1 or 2 may be enough for the organisation across on there. So if we look at the Essential 8, or the next slide, Sean, is basically when we're looking at, we're trying to reduce your attack surface in your environment across here. So if we look at the Essential 8, we can break it down into 3 sort of components on here. So if you look at the first 4 components, we're trying to prevent attacks that are happening within your organization. So for example, application control, we're also looking at patching applications because we know there's vulnerabilities within those applications that need to be addressed and updated across on here. We look at also macro settings within Microsoft documents as well, and then user application hardening across in here. So these first 4 that we look from Essential 8 is to try and prevent any sort of attack happening to an organization on there. Next 3 we look at is, okay, if a breach does happen, we want to try and limit what the attack happens on here, so, and the extent of the attack. So by restricting admin privileges, because we know that admin, if you have admin rights, it's almost the keys to your kingdom. Adversaries take a full advantage across on here. Operating systems as well, and making sure that they're patched as well, because operating systems are the underlying software across, whether it's server or endpoints across on here. And also, would they talk about multi-factor authentication? So even if a password has been, a user account has been compromised, they still going through multi-factor authentication. That limits the extent of what they can do with multi-factor authentication across on here. The last one's about recovery of data and system availability. So in the case of if an organization does have a full breach, how do you recover from that, the attack and bring yourself back up online as quickly as possible on here? So the obvious thing with that is we're talking about daily backups, and Sean will go through on this component in the second half of this presentation across on here. From a Sophos side of things, we're going to talk about the application controls, with basically InterceptX. Obviously, we're going to allow or whitelist certain applications across on here. So for the next part here, we're going to talk just a brief overview of who Sophos is, and we'll talk about the InterceptX product, which is the endpoint product there. So just in terms of Sophos itself, so it is a global company based out of the UK itself. Now, Sophos themselves are probably one of the areas, as a global security company, from endpoints to network to email and cloud, have also recently gone into what's called MDR, or Managed Detection and Response, across on here. So they have currently over 17,000 customers globally on the MDR platform to help mitigate and manage any sort of cybersecurity incidents for customers alone on there. Also, we're talking about, with the MDR service, it is one of the most highly rated service out there. We know that partners and customers are looking at things to address things from a cyber insurance requirements, asking about what are they doing in case a breach does happen. Sophos MDR is providing that quick instant solution that they can provide, for example, a security operations center or a SOC to help address any sort of incidents that need to be happened or taken action with across on here. So there are over 100 million users globally, and obviously over half a million customers that they have globally out there. If we look at the product sets from Sophos and what they cover out there, basically with Sophos has a wide range of products. For the conversation today, we'll be more talking about the endpoint security. So that's with Sophos InterceptX. I think we'll just go to the next slide, Sean, itself. We've also talked, just I'll briefly mention about the security operations as well. So that's another conversation that customers and partners are looking for in terms of how they can provide a security operations center for their customers, which helps them with the threat hunting and the correlation and remediation of any cyber incidents. Obviously, from endpoint security, we have the InterceptX platform itself. We have EDR, XDR as well, and also encryption. From a network security, they also cover firewall, NDR, ZTNA, and SASE. They also have a switch and access points as well. From a cloud security perspective, from a cloud native security, workload protection, cloud security posture management, or CSPM, is in there as well, and also email. And lastly is security email user awareness training as well. For example, this would be an example of a phishing campaign that's run internally to make sure that the users are educated around phishing simulations and across all that as well. So I want to briefly talk about Sophos Intercept X. And basically, this is Sophos's endpoint solution that has EDR and XDR capabilities. And obviously, leading into that is managed detection and response, or MDR capabilities on there. So as a foundational level, if we look at Sophos Intercept X, it's obviously looking and scanning for the known threats that we have, like your traditional endpoints that we have out there. But also coupled with AI or machine learning and deep learning for those unknown threats that we haven't seen across on here. So if we look at deep learning, it's an advanced form of machine learning, and it's helping to change the way that we approach endpoint security. And with Intercept X, it's leading the charge for that. Integrates deep learning basically as from rather than being a reactive security tool to a predictive approach to against unknown threats across on here. We're talking about ransomware as well. So Intercept X includes CryptoGuard, which is basically an advanced anti-ransomware technology that stops any new variants or never before seen ransomware across on there. So CryptoGuard inspects the contents of files that detect encryption and ransomware running on your network. Files that are encrypted by ransomware will automatically roll back to a safe state as well, irrespective of the size of the file type, and minimizing the impact on your business productivity out there as well. Lastly, we have anti-exploitation as well. So basically, Intercept X builds on the basic protection available with Microsoft Windows, and adding no fewer than 60 different proprietary pre-configured and tuned exploit mitigations across on here. It's one of those things, I know in the Essential 8 they talk about, for example, patching. We know that patching the firmwares and things like that is to prevent sort of those vulnerabilities being exploited with that as well. So we can look at Intercept X as a temporary form of patching, where they'll have exploit prevention from happening, and then making sure that that if any adversaries are using that exploit, the anti-exploitation feature will provide some preventative measure across on there. So if we look at from the Essential 8 and Sophos Intercept X side of things, we're talking about application control as probably the main feature with Sophos Intercept X. So being the ability to provide a whitelist of applications at the endpoints, but also from a server potentially as well. So you don't want different forms of applications that you're not aware of in the environment, because cyber adversaries take advantage of that, run applications or malware environments of that. We also have, for example, living off LAN binaries or LOL bins that are commonly used tools as well. If you're not having a use case for that, you don't want those particular applications running on the endpoints across on there. Again, with exploit prevention, we're talking about from a vulnerability side of things, if there are patches that need to be applied, but obviously from an organizational change in control method, we can't put the patch on immediately. So we can look at Intercept X as to provide a means to provide a temporary measure for patching whilst the formal test is going on from there. The last one I'll talk about is more around the Sophos managed detection and response that we have available as well. So Sophos MDR. So Sophos MDR provides a 24/7 threat hunting and detection and response capabilities delivered by Sophos experts and is a fully managed service provided by Sophos across on there. With the Sophos team and experts, there are lead driven, with threat hunting across on there, and they look at confirmed or malicious artifacts or activity, or basically indicators of compromise, signals that are happening in your customer's environment that could be automatically locked or terminated. Obviously, freeing up a lot of our SOC partners' resources, to conduct the threats or investigate the threats that are happening across on here. So basically, any sort of indicators of attacks or compromise, the threat hunting team are looking for that and helping partners to identify that and notify them across on there. Obviously, from a security with MDR as well, they can provide security health checks for yourself and your customers, making sure that the products, also in conjunction with Intercept X, is that the environment is working at a peak performance, and being proactive with the examinations of your operating environment and conditions that you have across on here. There are activity reporting as well, so a summarise of case activities or prioritisation that the threat hunting or Sophos MDR has provided. Obviously, looking at making sure that we keep our partners and customers informed if there is a breach that has happened in the environment from across. Then further on, we can also provide playbooks to how to remediate those threats, but also Sophos can help with partners as well to actually action those threats on there. One of the recent surveys or information that they provide, they've seen when the attacks happen, about 70% of attacks happen after hours. So, we know that a lot of people or the team is, gone home from working from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. A lot of the attacks happen from between 6 and 8 a.m., 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Itself on there. So it is 24/7 that is provided by Sophos in terms of the NDR. Go to the next slide, Sean. Okay, so I'll pass it over to Sean and he'll start to talk about Veeam and what they can do.
Thank you so much, Wesley. Just wanted to confirm if I'm audible from your side.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear, Sean.
That sounds good. All right. As Wesley mentioned, we're going to talk about Veeam, the Veeam opportunity first, and then we'll talk about Veeam Data Platform. We'll also talk about the integration of Veeam with Sophos, as well as the relevance of Veeam in the Essential 8 strategy. And then afterwards, we'll be talking about Secure Restore. So let me start with the Veeam opportunity. So overall, Veeam is 100% sales through channel. We are also having about 15,000 plus customers growing rapidly at approximately about 100 to 120 new customers per quarter. In terms of the NPS score, Veeam has a high NPS score, and this not only speaks to the strength of the product, but also the skills and the capabilities, as well as the commitment of our partners to be able to deliver successful outcomes for the combined customers. Besides that, what you're noticing that Veeam has been 7th time recognized by Gartner, and it's not only Gartner who's been recognizing Veeam. Analysts like Forrester and IDC are noticing that Veeam is actually a leader and has earned a numerous number of industry awards over the years. In ANZ as well, we have about 160 plus team members, a strong team in ANZ representing every region, which includes customer support team in Australia and New Zealand as well, and has continuously been showing growth over the past 15 years. We have about 15 plus K customers across ANZ as well. We have the #1 market share in New Zealand and worldwide, as well as received 200 plus industry awards. What I wanted to highlight would be the continuous revenue growth, as well as the 92% renewal rate that we are actually having. So when we talk about how Veeam helps businesses, Veeam is focused mainly on 3 pillars. All right. So we would like to ensure that we have data security, meaning that our data is immutable. Let's say we are able to back up, and then we're able to actually provide immutability across different layers. No matter, even if we have a backup, if we're not able to recover it from it, it will not be very much useful to us, right? So Veeam focuses on data recovery to ensure that actually we're able to recover whenever we want and wherever we need as well. So let's say, for example, if currently you are on premise and you want to be able to move to let's say to the cloud, you're actually able to do that because of the data portability as well, which leads me to the discussion on data freedom. You don't want to feel stuck with a technology solution. You want to be able to be sure that, let's say, whatever you have now, whatever you're backing up now, you're actually able to move across, let's say, the anywhere, let's say whether you're on cloud, whether you're on your on premise, whether you're having a hybrid setup, or let's say maybe from one cloud provider to another. So you're actually able to do that with the data freedom that Veeam provides. And in fact, one of the key things that I like talking to partners about would be the question that they normally raise, like, if I back up my, let's say, maybe M365 now, how will I be able to, let's say, recover it maybe 10 years or maybe 5 years from now if I don't use Veeam backup for M365 anymore? The good thing about it is you're able to recover even without, let's say, an active license. So that's one of the key features and key considerations why a lot of users are actually using Veeam. Let's focus on the Veeam data platform. So with Veeam data platform, you actually have so when we talk about Veeam data platform, you have different products encompassing the solution. We have Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, we have Veeam One, we have Veeam Backup and Replication, and that's the foundation. Accordingly, Veeam provides organizations with data resiliency through secure backup and fast, reliable recovery solutions via, let's say for your hybrid cloud requirements, or let's say application mobility for Kubernetes, or even actually AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud requirements. We actually have native solutions that will be able to help on those things, as well as we also provide integration with some of the most data intensive software as a service workloads, such as sales backup, Veeam backup for Salesforce, or even Veeam backup for M365. I wanted to talk more about the Veeam data platform. There are typically uh, three main, I would say, flavors of the Veeam data platform, though we also have a fourth one, which is the essentials, which allows you to back up to 50 workloads. Um, we'll focus on the Veeam data platform, Foundation, Advanced, and Premium. What you're noticing here on the screen would be the Foundation has Veeam backup and recovery. Advanced have Veeam backup and replication, Veeam backup and recovery, and monitoring analytics, or what we call Veeam backup and replication, and Veeam One. And for Premium, we actually have all three components, which we'll be talking about in the next few slides. So when we talk about Veeam backup and replication, it's basically the sorry, you're not seeing my screen yet. All right, it's basically the industry-leading backup, recovery, and data security solution for all your workloads. Whether you're, as I mentioned, whether you're both on-premise and on the cloud, Veeam Data Platform delivers a secure, powerful, and reliable data protection. It eliminates the downtime with the instant recovery, as well as stays safe from cyber threats with native immutability and tested backups. And this is all from a software defined, hardware agnostic solution. There are a lot of features and capabilities that I can talk about, but I wanted to highlight instant recovery because you're actually able to uh, achieve your SLAs within reliable restores from the from just a click of a button. You also have, let's say, the capability earlier I was mentioning about like moving from one, let's say, one platform to the other, for example. So you're actually able to recover across multiple clouds and platforms in what we call a portable data format. uh, you also can leverage on automatic backup scans, such as, let's say, secure restore, which we'll be talking about later. So overall, there are a lot of benefits, and if you would be interested to know more, we're happy to have a session further with regard to this one. um, yeah, so you have instant recovery that allows you to recover at any scale from just a click of a button, like what I mentioned. You're able to do granular application recovery as well. You're also able to have offsite replication. And if I haven't mentioned earlier, you're actually able to back up to directly to an object storage already with Veeam. So now let's talk quickly about Veeam One. So Veeam One actually helps you detect malicious backup activities to maintain recovery compliance. It actually it also provides you the capability to mitigate potential threats to your recovery strategy to minimize the downtime with automated responses, as well as it allows you to know your data location and its protection status. It comes with 340 plus preset alarms, including, let's say, signs of ransomware alarms, for example, and you're able to analyze the trends, utilization, as well as compliance goals with 150 plus pre-built reports as well. Some of the key capabilities would be, yeah, as I mentioned, proactive alerting, monitoring and reporting, capacity planning, intelligent automation, and diagnostics. You're actually able to leverage on chargeback and billing capabilities as well for you to be able to save time and reduce planning and calculating cost of your compute storage requirements, as well as it provides you governance and compliance as well. As a premium component of Veeam Data Platform, we actually have Veeam One, Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, that allows you to do mass recovery at scale with automated testing and orchestration, which actually ensures compliance and recovery in any scenario as well. It allows you to automate low impact testing to verify recovery, orchestrate recovery, which are tailored to your needs and requirements, as well as be able to prove compliance with dynamic test reports. One of the key pain points that I notice whenever I deal with service providers would be the too much documentation or dynamic documentation that they require. So with Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, you're actually able to do and create DR documentation automatically. You're also able to do one-click recovery, provide automated testing, create instant test labs as well, and do application verification. So these are just some of the key capabilities of Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. Um, I hope by now you guys have an overview of what Veeam can do, and definitely there are a lot more. Let's focus on Veeam's role in the Essential Eight. So, and it's relevant. So basically, when we talk about the Essential Eight, uh, the eighth component would actually be backup. And regular backups are one of the simpler strategies of Essential 8. And across all maturity levels, a backup of data is important. So this is where Veeam comes in. Veeam actually allows you to create backups, allows users to leverage on virtual machines and replicate them to ensure that there's a data availability and recoverability. So so with Veeam, we're actually able to tick some parts of the essential eight requirements as well. Going now to Veeam and Sophos integration. Uh, Veeam and Sophos actually formed up an alliance to come up with a strategic partnership. So last 25th of October, it was mentioned that integration of Veeam data platform with Sophos MDR or managed detection and response, enhancing the security of business critical backups. And it's quite timely because we were planning to actually do a webinar on the tool accordingly prior to that. So it's kind of a perfect timing as well. I wanted to start before talking about the actual the integration that they do is, did you know that your backups will be usually targeted first in a ransomware attack? And in fact, based on interviews with 1,200 IT leaders who suffered a ransomware attack, threat actors were able to affect the backup repositories in 75% of the attack as well. So with this integration, we're actually going to be able to achieve and become more cyber resilient. So we're actually able to protect business critical data, including backups. We're able to get ahead of criminal and implement the solution to monitor the environment with MDR, as well as we can actually create a recovery plan when data loss occurs. So together, Veeam and Sophos vigilantly detect cybersecurity threats to determine the warranted response and quickly recover impacted data so your backups stay safe and secure. Veeam Data Platform will monitor the organization's environment to detect the potential threats against customers' production workloads and the backup environment. Should a threat be identified, such as an attacker attempting to tamper with backups, Veeam will send an alert to Sophos MDR, which is a fully managed threat hunting, detection, and response service that provides a dedicated 24 by 7 security team that rapidly identifies, neutralizes complex attacks, including ransomware, network breaches, hands on keyboard adversaries, and more. And from there, Sophos MDR team can actually respond and determine the best way to protect your backups from the threat. Sophos MDR can also help roll back to the last known backup, or in the case of attempted backup deletion, determine if an attack is occurring and take action to disrupt, contain, and fully eliminate the attacker. Some of the further key benefits would be advanced threat detection and prevention capabilities from Sophos with immutable backups and versioning provided by Veeam. So this will actually ensure backup data remains secure, recoverable, and can help against ransomware. I wanted to highlight a few things as well with the integration. Sophos MDR security operations actually specializes execute and immediate the threat response to stop confirmed threats with an industry-leading average response time of 38%, which is 96% faster than the industry benchmark. And with that, we're able to have comprehensive monitoring of internal and external threats like malware. We're able to detect unauthorized or suspicious activity that could lead to compromised backup. And yeah, these are just some of the key benefits. And I'm sure eventually there will be a whole range of roadmaps that there will be a bigger roadmap according to the integrations accordingly. As part of this webinar, we want to talk about uh, VM Secure Restore, which is basically uh, leveraging on, let's say, an antivirus software to scan the machine data before restoring the machine to the production environment. When we talk about VM Secure Restore, it's actually available for the following restore options. And as you see, there are a lot of restore options that Veeam can actually do. Uh, Either you're doing an instant recovery, entire VM restore, virtual disk, restore to, let's say, a cloud, exporting a disk, or let's say even using Sure Backup, you're actually able to leverage the capability of scan of an antivirus software to be able to scan the machine data. So how does Secure Restore work? So during Secure Restore, what Veeam does is it actually mounts a disk on a machine that you actually plan to restore to the mount server. So on the mount server, this is where our antivirus software is installed. Veeam Backup and Replication triggers that software to scan the files from the mounted disks. And if during the scan, the antivirus software detects a malware, Veeam Backup and Replication will either abort the restore process or restore the machine or its disk with certain restrictions that we can actually uh, set up. Like, for example, disabling the network adapter, or disconnecting the restored virtual disk from the target VM and so on. So what Veeam does is it actually uses the mount server as a staging server for scanning with the use of the antivirus software. And yeah, so and with that, you're actually able to run the malware scan. So what Veeam does is on the mount server itself, Veeam Backup and Replication uh, runs a vmount service to check for what we call a Veeam antivirus configuration file, and I'll show that to you in the next few minutes. Uh, Veeam leverages on the antivirus infos XML configuration, and then once it identifies that this is a correct configuration to run the antivirus, Veeam will actually be able to scan the necessary backup accordingly. There are certain requirements and limitations for secure restore. However, so I wanted to talk about that first, and then after that, we'll actually be showing you the Veeam backup and replication uh, software itself. So when we talk about secure restore, And in order for us to do this, a machine has to be running on a Windows, Microsoft Windows. An antivirus software that you would like to introduce or use must be installed on the mount server as well and support activation through command line interface. And yeah, so a configuration file, which is antivirusinfos.xml that I was talking about earlier, must be located on the mount server and must be properly configured also. And just please consider that Veeam does not perform malware scans for disk or volumes that cannot be mounted on the mount server itself. So what we are waiting for would be the demo. I'm just checking if you're able to see my VMware screen. So this is my Veeam backup and replication um, uh, VM. I also have a mount server VM as well. I just wanted to show you first. Earlier, I mentioned that the antivirus should be installed on the mount server. So you'll see here that we have a Sophos endpoint agent installed on the mount server. We also have, this is also the antivirus infos, uh, which is actually triggering Sophos Intercept X. I wanted to highlight, if let's say you would want, let's say maybe if you'd want to leverage on this, please reach out to your vendor support for both sides to be able to guide you accordingly. So yeah, so this is our mount server. Another thing that I would want to mention is normally when you're setting up, let's say a repository, that is where you identify a mount server. I'll just show you quickly how this is done. So this repository has been set up already with certain names and so on. So whenever you're using a mount server, by default, or let's say in the initial setup, the mount server is actually uh, with either uses the VBR itself or the repository itself that you're using. You're actually able to make some changes here. So 192.168.1.70 is actually the mount server that I have with Sophos. So normally you just select that and apply and so on. And so I won't make any changes. So after that, let's say after you've set that up and so on, of course you'll be creating a backup. So whether it's creating a backup or a sure backup, you're actually able to do that. As part of the demo, I've already created the backup. Earlier, I was also mentioning about the different restore options that can allow you to leverage on Veeam Security Store. So whether you're using a Veeam agent, for example, or having a VM, you're actually having different restore options accordingly, such as instant recovery, restore entire VM, um, restore to Amazon EC2, restore to Google, or Microsoft Azure, you're actually able to do this. I'll just show you quickly the options. I won't necessarily run everything here, but you have here you actually have the secure restore option with different location or with different settings as well. So I'm just for showing purposes. So I just wanted to show you the secure restore feature, where when you're actually doing secure restore, you can it's actually going to make you select whether you want to scan the restored machine accordingly. And if malware is found, proceed with recovery, but disable the network adapters, abort VM recovery, or scan the entire image. So yeah, with instant recovery, it's the same. Let's say, for example, if you wanted to recover a VM, um, yeah, so just select the destination host. Let's say I'm selecting my ESXi there. You have different options. So normally, so I wanted to highlight the scan. Typically, the scan will vary depending on the size of the backup that you have. In my case, I think it scans for about 20 to 30 minutes, accordingly. So I won't be able to show you the whole the whole duration of the scanning, but basically, I wanted to show you that, yeah, so this capabilities and so on. Let's say whenever you're restoring and so on, you just do this setup accordingly. Once you've highlighted the necessary configuration that you wanted to do, you click on finish. Veeam will actually start to trigger the antivirus software, do the antivirus scan, and yeah, so it might. So as I mentioned, it depends on the size of the machine that you wanted to back up. So if you have multiple disks accordingly, so it will give you an information that some of the disks may not be scanned for malware and so on. So this is not yet the end of that scan. It's actually further scanning more. So overall, when you actually scanned it accordingly, you might be having, let's say, something similar to this one, which actually talks about, let's say, the necessary publishing of the backup files after scanning, updating the VM configuration, and the rest would be the necessary steps that Veeam takes to be able to proceed with, let's say, restoring the backup, either to instant recovery or restoring of a VM. I think that's about it for the demo. As I've mentioned, let's say if you need some help on, let's say, setting up and leveraging on the two products, please reach out to your vendor supports, whether it's Veeam and or Sophos, to actually to lead you to point you to the right direction in certain configurations and setup. So before I end, I wanted to highlight as well, when you're using antivirus, please check the Veeam exclusions, what you need to exclude in terms of, let's say, the file directory that you need to exclude accordingly. So there's a KB that Veeam provided to be able to support on that one. Okay. Are there some questions in the chat box?
Yeah, there's some questions, Sean. So one of the customers asked, just in terms of if what one question was, if I'm running my own SOC, and what is the advantage of Sophos MDR to provide that? So one of the things that a few things there in terms of that. Basically, the MDR service that Sophos provide is 24/7, and it's a global follow the sun model. I know for particular Australian partners as well, there is for data retention, there is a Australian data center as well. So the data and the logs, all that are retained within Australia across on here. Now, because it is follow the sun 24/7, so I just wanted to correct one of the few things that you just mentioned earlier in terms of the average MDR response time. So it's actually from Sophos, from detection to remediation, we are looking at around, on average, about 38 minutes in terms of the response time on there. So whether it is at Saturday at 2 o'clock in the morning or even during business hours, Sophos or the Sophos MDR team is constantly looking at that. They have the threat experts and all that, and hunters, to understand what the environment is across on here. Generally, from my experience, talking to a lot of partners and customers, I'm pretty sure that if you ask them, if you had an incident happen, where do you start? A lot of them, will struggle to figure out, where do I start, or what do I start to look at? What information do I look at to hunt that a cyber incident across on there? So, so having those resources and experts already there by Sophos is a key advantage across on here. Now, in terms of also the Sophos MDR integration with Veeam as well, so obviously doing the security threat intelligence and sharing that threat intelligence information, also on your Veeam backup as well. As Sean mentioned, most of the time the adversaries are attacking your backup as part of to make sure across on there. Now, obviously the challenge with that is with persistence in the environments and backups. So, it's a nice way to minimize any sort of threats that are happening on there, but also, I've seen organizations that are hit where, they've recovered from the ransomware attack or the cyber attack, by they're going back to recovery. However, the backup was already compromised, already in place on there. So, you know, they've had gone through, some organisation I've seen going through from double or triple extortion itself, just because, you know, the backup was already compromised across on here. So the Sophos and Veeam integration allows, you know, that to be minimised. They've already been proactive in making sure that any sort of attacks that are happening under the backup are already taken care of on there, across there. Cool.
Sounds good.
Okay, so if we go to, yep, sure.
Yeah, I think we have a call to action
Yeah,
for sides.
yeah. So
So
just yeah, talking about some promos from Sophos in itself. So right now we're going for a what's called a summer splash in terms of registering a Sophos MDR deal with us. So we'll look at you know, if you register your deal with us, we're looking at providing a $150 e-Mastercard as well as an added incentive. So that is running until the end of February next year. As an added incentive, you know, if we close it out before the end of this year, so you know, Christmas is fast approaching and the New Year's already. You know, we're looking at providing $100 extra as an added incentive for our partners across on there. Also add a few promo items as well. So we're looking at an additional $100 e-Mastercard for the top 3 deal registers from this webinar. So the only thing is we need the deal opportunity sizes to be greater than $10,000 itself. If you sign up as a Sophos partner and complete your first transaction before Christmas, you also receive a Sophos Keep Up itself, and then from a flex discussion as well. So if you've got some flex opportunity as well, there is some promotions for a Sophos Keep Up as well on there. So that's the promos that we're sort of running in here with from Sophos. I'll pass it over to you, Sean, for the Veeam promos.
that sounds good. Thank you, Wesley. From Veeam's side, we'd like to we were excited to announce that the Veeam's acquisition of Cirrus. So basically, Cirrus is a simple data protection solution you've been looking for to be able to streamline your backup, storage, and recovery processes. Cirrus is able to actually protect your M365 as well as Azure workloads accordingly. In terms of some incentives that we actually, and by the way, the series is available via Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace. Some of the incentives that we have, we're actually giving away $75 e-Mastercard vouchers for onboarding and for VCSP or onboarding and submitting a first usage report in Pulse. We are also giving, let's say, Veeam is giving also a $50 e-Mastercard voucher bonus for partners who are actually consistently reporting on time in Pulse as well. And another $250 MasterCard voucher for driving new business worth 12,000 USD sales within this quarter itself. I wanted to highlight as well Veeam Pro partner perks. So it's partner Veeam. It's within Veeam.com itself where you're actually able to redeem, let's say, gift vouchers or certain gift cards upon completion of the certain certifications, such as, let's say, VM SP, VMTSP, or VMCE accordingly. Yeah, that's from my side. So yeah, thank you. So Wesley, I leave the floor open for closing more remarks, I would say.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so I'd like to thank everybody that's joined, you know, for the last 50 minutes or so. I understand it's, you know, some of us it's in the middle of our lunchtime, but I do appreciate your time and attendance on here. If you do have any further questions itself, do feel free to reach out to Sean and myself directly, and we'll get you the right resources here from Ingram Micro to help answer those questions that you may have, or any opportunities. We'll work together with the relevant business development managers that we have inside Ingram across on here. So from behalf of Sean and myself, Sophos, and also Veeam, you know, we'd like to thank you for your time and appreciate you attending this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.